Hello, welcome back. I'm Charles Showalter. You're listening to the Union Edge Laborers Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. We enjoy your conversation and your company, that's for sure. Folks, it's a great pleasure that I get to reintroduce Admiral Joe Sestak. He is a candidate for the Senate here in Pennsylvania, running against Senator Pat Toomey. Admiral, welcome back to Union Edge.
Charles, good to be with you again.
Always a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure. I appreciate it. Sir, we've been talking about a lot of different subjects when you've been coming on. One of the subjects I'd like to talk to you about is fair pay for women and equality on the job. What are your thoughts about that, and how do we rectify some of the problems that are out there?
Well, look, we know from studies that women make about 77 cents to 92 cents on the dollar that a man gets for the same exact job. And if you're African American, it's 64 cents. And if you're Hispanic, it's 54 cents. And that's because there's a loophole in the law that needs to be fixed by the Paycheck Fairness Act, which Senator Toomey has opposed, filibustered, and voted against 6 times. He's tried to stop it. And that's because under the old law, there's a loophole that actually says that you can discriminate for something that's not job-related. Just because a guy might negotiate a different way than a woman and demands for the same exact job a higher price. So this bill would merely say, hey, you can pay a guy more than a woman or a woman more than a guy for the same job if it's job-related. That is, it requires you to lift really heavy boxes, and it needs to be 3 boxes weighing 100 pounds each at once, and some guy can do it, but some woman can't, or vice versa. It has to be job-related. It makes sense. Why does Senator Toomey oppose it?
I have no idea why. That's what we're talking about.
In the military, Charles, you and I know that women and men get the same exact pay. You go to combat, you get the same pay. That's the way it should be in the private market. And government should be able to advance our individual freedoms and liberties. And that's all that we want with this law, is to advance the freedom of women to get equal pay as men.
And, this is definitely a legislative battle that we are going to have to fight. I know that there are going to be a lot of people like Senator Toomey that just refuse to want these things to happen. And that's unfortunate. I don't understand their motivation, but they do have some type of motivation. How are we going to get this through the House and the Senate and get a signature from the president to change this?
You need a new set of group of people down there. It's why I'm running for the U.S. Senate. Senator Toomey opposes it. Let's replace him. Look, he also opposed what's called the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act for women. This was legislation that merely said if a woman had been discriminated against, gets their day in court. I mean, we're a nation of laws, not of men. And therefore, a woman should be able, if she finds out she's been discriminated against, to be able to have their day in court and assert their right, their liberties, their freedom to say, I deserve equal pay. He opposed that, much as he voted to close down the 100 women business development centers to help women who own small businesses to be able to be even more growing than they are today. Here's an example. 1/3 of all small businesses are owned by a woman today, and yet of all bank loans to small businesses, only 4% go to women-owned small businesses. The Women Business Development Centers just make sure that a woman gets their fair day. That's all that we're asking, and that's government can do that by making sure the marketplace plays fair and by the rules.
There are some that say, well, let the market decide on issues like that. What's your rebuttal to it?
Well, when someone like Senator Toomey says in his book that the private market is like one of the greatest inventions discovered by mankind, I step back and say the United States of America, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence says everyone is created equal. That's the greatest invention here by mankind. America is. That we are a nation of laws where everyone deserves equality and freedom. And so that's my answer to saying, hey, you're on your own. Look, you learned in the military that we valued rugged individualism. We really did. SEAL Team 6, those are pretty rugged individuals, but they came together as a team because they knew we were all in this together to have one another's back. And that's what we do in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in the United States of America, have a government of, for, and by the people that needs to be accountable, not to unduly interfere with our individual freedoms, not to interfere with them, but at the same time to advance our freedoms by giving equality to a woman for fair pay. And that's what government can do when it's held accountable to actually advance our freedoms, advance our liberties.
Senator, it's also my understanding that Admiral, it's my understanding that Senator Toomey is contemplating disadvantaging some seniors. What's going on with that?
Well, there's a number of areas. We have what's called Operation Choke Point by the Justice Department that goes specifically after those who call seniors, 80s and 90 years old, and over the telephone defraud them, get their credit card, get them to send a check. He voted to specifically close down by an amendment, the funding for Operation Choke Point. Well, when payday lenders, when banking associations are one of your primary campaign contributors, I think he gets unduly influenced by that rather than taking care of Pennsylvanians and our seniors. He wants to privatize Social Security. When he was a congressman, he voted to raid Social Security, pay for President Bush's out-of-control budgets. And then Medicare. When the Medicare would have run out of money 2 years from now, except for the Affordable Care Act. We made sure that he opposed it, but we made sure that Medicare got extended for another decade to make sure there was long-term sustainability for our seniors in their health care. There's a difference. Pat Toomey believes you're on your own. The private market, it's the Wild West. I believe that the private market is very key, but the rules need to be set so that they're fair.
Admiral, let me ask you another question. A little bit off topic, but Mr. Trump has come out with a budget. Have you had a chance to take a look at it, and what's your thoughts?
Well, we're still analyzing it. There are some things that I think we need to look at. First of all, if we can reduce taxes on the middle class and the lower income, that's what's got to be done. But we have to see now, and if you can do away with carried interest, which he mentioned, that I voted for that, so that a hedge fund manager, even though his money is not invested as a capital gains, he just manages another person's money, he actually gets to pay only 15% tax on what he or she gets for income, because it's sort of like they invested their own money. I don't think that's fair. And so we got to continue to analyze it. But I have to see overall, and that's why we're going to finish the analysis on this to see where it sits. And so I just want to make sure that it's the middle class, the working families, the lower income that we're relieving the burden upon as we move forward. And then let's invest in our economy, from the infrastructure to the transportation means of that infrastructure, to the wireless of that infrastructure, to our human capital and education, to ensure that our economy really does, because I think we're on the cusp of manufacturing coming back to America, compete and go beyond China and any other country to be all we can be economically.
There you go. Admiral, we're coming to the end of it. How do we find out more about you and your campaign?
I would ask people to please go on my website. And it's a very simple website. It's just joesestak.com. joesestak.com. SESTAK. And on it you'll see that there was a video taken every day as I walked 422 miles across this state, because I want every Pennsylvanian to know that I will walk in their shoes, understand their hopes and concerns, and when, Lord willing, I'm the U.S. Senator in Washington, D.C., I will continue to walk in their shoes down there.
Fantastic. Admiral, thank you very much for being with us today. We appreciate it. And we'll
Thanks, Charles. You have a great Pennsylvania day.
Thank you. You too, sir. I'm Charles Showalter. You're listening to the Union Edge Laborers Talk Radio.